you. Thank guests for being on.
Boy, Jordan, it's hard to imagine that Konami's not making any more of these Silent Hill games.
I know. I can't believe it either.
Oh, jeez. How did it all go wrong? How did it all go so wrong? Because they had these hit games like Silent Hill 4, and then they just stopped. I don't know what happened.
I mean, comparatively, compared to the Silent Hill games that came after this, this isn't as bad as it could have been.
I refuse to believe that.
Shattered Memories is really bad.
Wait, no, it's not.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not. Shattered Memories is interesting for what it's trying to do.
Okay, I'll give you that. Like, as it's got a cool gimmick, and I think that it would be a lot better if it weren't a Silent Hill game. Yeah. If it had just been called Shattered Memories and on Silent Hill Shattered Memories, I think it would have been a lot better.
I think you're right. Yeah, because I played that game when I hadn't played any other Silent Hill games, so I had no preconceptions about like what I wanted out of it.
Yeah.
I think it would be very different if I played it in the opposite order.
I still find this cinematic to be extremely unsettling.
I've seen it a million times, so I'm way over it.
Yeah, but it's well made. And
though
this was
it looks
IMO,
different.
the last good score that Akira Yamaoka did. Like, he did the music for a few of the games after this, but they weren't anywhere near as good. And also, everything that he's done at Grasshopper Manufacture has been super phoned in.
That's too bad. But have you played Homecoming?
I have not played Homecoming.
Like, I've seen a few seconds of Homecoming, but I refuse to believe that it's worse than this.
I don't know, man. I know that Richard Mitchell at Joystick liked Downpour more than most people, but he still gave it, I think, 3.5 stars.
Yeah, I've heard Downpour has its moments. I don't know, I feel like this is, like, we really liked Silent Hill 1. And Silent Hill 2, I think we kind of felt like the story had promise, but it wasn't executed that well, and the gameplay wasn't there. And then in, like, the third one, the gameplay was maybe a little bit better, kinda, but then the story was just gone, and then this feels like it's back in the other direction where like the scenario of the game is pretty interesting, but then just like the gameplay is just fucking nonsense.
Well, this game had a really weird development history on it because it started out it was announced as not a Silent Hill game.
Yeah.
It was just The Room, and then they came back a year later and said, just kidding, it's Silent Hill 4 The Room. So it had started as a completely unrelated project and then got co-opted to be a Silent Hill game. And they also like wanted to do a game that focused a lot more on combat than the previous games had ever done, but also wanted to do this weird first-person exploratory thing, which would later be expounded on and improved in PT. Like there are a lot of through lines that can be drawn from Silent Hill 4 to PT. In so much as exploring a normal environment that has been made ominous in some way and having very few ways of interacting with the environment.
Did you play PT?
I was too scared of PT to get more than 20 minits into any stream of it, but I read extensively about it.
So you didn't really see ours either.
I tried. I tried real hard. But that game is terrifying, man.
Yeah.
It is really, really frightening.
That I feel like
I also don't have a PlayStation 4, I should say, so I couldn't play it even if
that's what it was. But I maintain that like our PT stream is proof that us not being scared by Silent Hill isn't just because we're talking to each other and trying to make jokes. And it's just that the games aren't that scary, because holy shit, I was like so terrified of playing PT. While I was playing it, I should say.
PT is effective, I think, because it is such a small, repeated space that they were able to make it almost photorealistic.
I guess being in first person, there's a lot of moments where it takes camera control away from you, the same way like a horror movie does. So I guess it's sort of like a lot of its, I would say, gimmicks are sort of straight out of like horror movies. Like there's a lot of jump scares and stuff.
Yeah, and like that stuff is very rote, but like I think what PT does well is that it puts you in a place that is already creepy. Like an empty house at night is creepy, and then it does it in such a way as to make all the things your brain is telling you are happening when you're in an empty house alone at night actually happen. And that's why PT was so unsettling for me.
Okay, yeah. I see where you're coming from there.
But like I feel like a lot of the DNA of PT started in Silent Hill 4: The Room because they wanted to do that. They had similar ideas. It's first person exploration of a normal living area that's become evil beyond the control of the person that's having to go through it.
I can't tell you how many times I've been alone in my house at night and I go into the bathroom and I just swear out of the corner of my eye I could see an aborted fetus with a really deep voice in my sink talking to me.
It happens constantly, and that's a really universal fear.
That's the word to describe it. It's universal. Everyone can relate to that experience of thinking that that's happening to them.
Exactly. And so that's why it was so predictable in the game, but it also was one of the most well-executed moments of that thing. But yeah, so I mean, like, there were posts going around that Kojima and Del Toro want to work on a thing even beyond Konami's involvement, so I'm sure something will still happen with them. Del Toro's been trying to work in video games for a long time.
Oh man, I know. He can't catch a break.
Poor guy. Like, he had that deal with THQ to make Insane.
Yeah.
And then all that stuff with THQ happened.
Yep.
And then I was trying to, for a long time, I was trying to figure out if Insane and PT were the same thing.
Right. Yeah, I kind of had that thought also. Like, how much of Insane would have just made its way into PT or Silent Hills or whatever?
Yeah, and so I was trying to figure out whenever THQ folded, who retained intellectual property over the content, and who retained the actual like code and design. And I couldn't find anything really official.
That's interesting. But man, like the more I think about this, the more it's like I don't want to abandon the Let's Play because I don't want to abandon another Let's Play. But then at the same time, it's like, well, if I'm not having fun, like if I just hate it the whole time, then the videos are going to be bad anyway. So like, I don't want to play it. Nobody wants to watch me not wanting to play it. Like, is there even any point to this? I don't know.
I think y'all are deep enough into it that it would be worth finishing. But like, maybe take some time to analyze what exactly it is, moment to moment, that you hate about it, and see if there's anything that can be done to kind of mitigate the impact that has on you while you're playing.
I guess that's a good point. Really, I think it would probably just be playing with a walkthrough. Which might... Yeah. Which, I don't know.
Maybe that would, like, maybe y'all could try that for a couple episodes and see if, like, once you're back on track, see if it kind of rejuvenates wanting to do stuff with it. And if it doesn't, then fuck it. And no one will care, and you can put more time into Digimon World and Mario and Shenmue and every other LP that you're doing.
We're getting there with Digimon World.
Yeah, man.
We're getting there. And then Mon's gonna die, and then there'll be 100 more episodes.
I think those are probably the episodes that we get the most excited about here in the Jovac household.
What, Digimon dying?
No, just new Digimon episodes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Did you know about Rumble Arena?
No, I haven't. Did you hear that?
Something about Rumble Arena.
So, me and Divac have been going through a bunch of old games this week and last week because I never had a PlayStation 2, and so
what?
I had an original Xbox.
I would have never pegged you for the person that had the Xbox and not the PS2.
Well, all my friends had PS2s, and I wanted to play the games that they couldn't. So I got the Xbox. But I also thought that like Xbox Live was the raddest idea anybody had ever had. But so
it was pretty great.
Like, it was, man. Like I played the shit out of that MotoGP demo. But so we've been playing like We've been playing a lot of Champions Return to Arms. But we had also played Digimon Rumble Arena for the original PlayStation, and I wanted to know if, and there was a sequel for this called Digimon Rumble Arena 2 for the PlayStation 2.
It's so bad, Kyle. It's so bad. It's like bad Smash Brothers. It's like bad N64 Smash Brothers.
It's Super Smash Brothers.
I've played the original to completion.
Okay, well, the second takes everything about the first game that's great and really runs with it.
So you're... Wait, so... You're being sarcastic when you call it great?
No, I think that game's great. I mean, like, it's not good, but it's extremely fun to play. It's super broken and unbalanced, but we've been playing it a little bit, and it's really fun. Like, you've got, you pick any of the base form Digimon, and then a power-up will appear on the field, and you get it, and then you can Digivolve. Yeah. But in Digimon Rumble Arena 2, you can, what is the next step? Mega Digivolve? Megavolve?
Well,
Ultimate Digivolve?
I mean, I thought there were already Mega Digimon in the original Rumble Arena. There was like Imperial Dramon.
Yeah, but you had to unlock them.
Oh, okay.
They were characters that you unlocked. You couldn't become them in round.
Gotcha.
But in this one you can, and so it's like you'll pick up, because this game is very not well made. You'll pick up the thing and Digivolve, and then the thing will immediately respawn next to you, and you can pick it up again and then evolve into your ultimate form, and then just go step on the other player.
So you're loving this, and DVAC is hating it, and you're basically just subjecting it to her against her will. Is that...
We've only played a few rounds of it. We both had a lot of fun, but I think she thinks it's more terrible than I do.
The same could be said of many things.
By the way, have you noticed what I'm doing here?
Yeah, which one is this?
The original.
The original? I also never played any of these games.
Me neither.
Because I didn't have a Super Nintendo. I had a Genesis.
Same.
It wasn't until the Xbox 360 that I had two consoles from the same manufacturer consecutively. We had an NES, and then a Genesis, and then a PlayStation, and then an Xbox, and then a 360.
What did I have? I jumped around quite a bit. I think I had a Genesis, and then I got an NES, so that was a little weird. Mm-hmm. And then I got the N64, and then I went to Dreamcast.
Did you have... Oh, yeah, the Dreamcast. I forgot about the Dreamcast.
And then I went PS2, so I jumped around quite a bit.
Yeah, we had a Dreamcast before the Xbox. I think that's why I ended up getting an Xbox, was because the Xbox had all the Dreamcast games that I wasn't going to get anymore because the Dreamcast had died.
Right, I never made that connection until, like, years later when it was explained to me, and I was like, oh, that's right. Like, the Xbox had all, like, the sequels to all the games that were popular on Dreamcast.
Yeah, because like Sega's not going to go shack up with Nintendo or Sony, especially in that climate. So like Microsoft was the other new kid in camp that they could go hang out with.
Except that they did start putting Sonic on Nintendo, which was a little weird.
Yeah, but that was later. That was like GameCube times.
Well, that's Xbox came out at the same time as GameCube.
Oh, you're right. It's a good point.
It's a little weird.
It is weird, but yeah, like. Jet Grind Radio and Space Channel 5 were like two of my favorite games ever. And then so when there was Jet Set Radio Future on the Xbox, it was like, well, I guess I know which one I'm getting now.
Right.
But also Space Channel 5 Part 2 came out on the PlayStation 2, so I don't even know.
It did?
Yeah.
But you know, 'cause I know I've talked about this several times on like run button stuff, but you know that there was actually talks to have the Xbox be backwards compatible with Dreamcast games?
Yeah, I think that y'all are the only place I've ever heard about that, and I find it like wildly fascinating.
Yeah, and it's funny because then you look at the Xbox controller and you realize it's all the same buttons as the Dreamcast controller, like exactly the same, except they added the black and white buttons.
Yeah,
and then it's like, huh?
It's like, But yeah, it's very close. And I swear, and like I've never been able to find a picture of this online, and maybe you encountered one, but before the Xbox 360 came out, there were Xboxes in in Best Buys and Walmart's like demo kiosk Xboxes, and the bumpers were black. There was one white bumper and one black bumper. Do you remember this? Did you ever see this?
No, I've never. No idea.
And it was that they hadn't removed. Congratulations. They hadn't removed the black and white buttons. They had moved them to the shoulders.
Oh, right. Yeah. Well, you know what? There were a bunch of third-party Xbox controllers that just did that. Like, people figured out that that's what they should have done way before the 360 even existed.
Yeah, and so I swear that there were official controllers that were colored that way, and I haven't been able to find any anywhere. And I thought it was a weird fever dream that I'd had at some point.
Someone just found. Did you see the thing about the Nintendo PlayStation?
Oh yeah, that was fascinating.
That
thing is the most important video game artifact that exists.
The most important?
Yeah, I would say so.
Okay. You mean in terms of a thing that never came to fruition, or?
Yeah, I mean not counting the this is the computer space cabinet, or this is the first Atari Pong machine. Not counting any of that stuff. The Nintendo PlayStation represents an entirely different
universe,
alternate timeline.
Yeah, it that's exactly right. It represents a totally different branch of reality that never came to pass.
Yeah, I wrote an editorial about this that I've been trying to sell to somebody, and in it I used the phrase "Earth 2 PlayStation," which I think is pretty apt.
That's funny.
But it's so important that thing still exists because
and
there are tons of other failed unreleased prototypes and failed game systems, and there are other things that are parts of what this is.
Yeah.
But there's nothing that's as important as this is. There's nothing that is as huge of a turning point in video games and entertainment as a whole as this thing. Because you could say, okay, well, there was the Sega Neptune that never came out. There was the Atari Panther that never came out.
The Sega Neptune was just it was just pre-existing systems rolled into one. It wasn't anything to write home about.
And the Nintendo PlayStation may not have been anything great either because it was just a Super NES with a disc drive, right?
Yeah, exactly. They were smart not to put that out.
Yeah. They handled it in a way that eventually would spell their doom, but it was still a smart decision to not release that thing.
Well, I guess.
But I mean, they weren't sold on not doing discs though, because they immediately went to Panasonic and were like, "Hey,"
to Philips.
To Philips.
That was the thing. The most insane part of the whole thing that the PlayStation was going to be a Super Nintendo add-on, and then Nintendo broke it off with Sony, and then went to Philips, and then eventually canceled the whole thing. The most insane part of it. And I actually forgot about this part until I was reading that book, Console Wars, which was that they didn't tell Sony that they had that they weren't gonna do business with them and were instead gonna do it with Philips. So they let Sony go to CES and announce on stage, "Hey, we're doing this add-on for the Super Nintendo. Nintendo will tell you more about it tomorrow." And then the next day, Nintendo was like, "We're proud to announce we're doing a CD add-on with Philips." And Sony was just like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah, and it was that.
That's nuts. That I don't know if the prototype is the most important game artifact, but I would say that is one of the most bonkers moments in video game history.
Well, like, if they hadn't have handled it like that, then would Sony have had so much fire in their bellies for getting into the video game industry, right? Like, that was embarrassing.
Yeah, I think they would have, though.
That's I think that's one of the reasons why the PlayStation had so much money and power thrown behind it, was because there was, pride on the line.
But before what they talk about in Console Wars was before that they went on to making their own console, though, they put their chips behind Sega for that reason. So they put a lot of Sega CD software out. But they even, like, when they struck a deal with Sega, they were like, "By the way, we still might make our own console, so just be ready for that."
Just heads up.
Yeah.
Also, people in chat are talking about the Sega Pluto.
Wait, what?
The Sega Pluto was a variant Saturn that had a built-in Netlink modem.
Oh, weird.
And it was never released also. So that's another unreleased Sega console.
I love the name of the Neptune, though. Like, I'm only sad it never came out so that they could have the Saturn and the Neptune.
Mm-hmm. It would have been great.
That is a great naming convention.
Yeah, it was Star Crash ebook in the chat that was talking about that. So that's one that's never been found then, I guess, because, like, I was trying to think of what the other, like, big gaming unicorns were now that somebody found this thing, and that, like, the ET landfill's been dug up.
Yep. Though that was... I think people forgot that was... They already admitted to that, like, decades ago.
Yeah, I mean, like, there were newspaper articles about it when it happened, and it was just another thing. It was just Atari dumping stock that nobody wanted to buy.
Yeah. What are the things that never... I mean, the Gizmondo, sort of. I mean, that was never gonna be a thing. It was a footnote from the beginning. Though, I mean, the story behind it's, like, it's insane. Like, that it almost seemed like a front for some...
It was some weird mob front, right?
Yeah, it was really weird.
Yeah, I guess... That was bullshit.
Oh, Donkey Kong Country's getting hard. Oh, the Phantom.
Oh yeah, the Phantom never came out. The Phantom was basically just a PC though, right?
Yeah, it was basically a Steam machine.
Yeah, yeah, the Phantom was a Steam machine 20 years early.
Yeah, wasn't that the thing was... I don't know how concrete details were for that thing at any point, but it was like... Wasn't it like, oh, it can play PC games, but only PC games made for the Phantom or something? Like, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, like on paper, the promise was that it was just a PC, so it could play any PC game, but there were going to be games that were optimized for the Phantom hardware.
Okay.
And it was also going to have a modular video card so that you could pull the card out and then put a new one in whenever it became outdated.
Gotcha.
And you'd be able to, I don't remember all the way, but I'm pretty sure that they had plans for some kind of, like, online sales infrastructure. Like, the ideas were very forward thinking and wanted to do a lot of the things that Steam does now, but it turns out that in the mid 2000s, whenever they were talking about all that shit, none of it was possible yet.
Yeah, and also just, like, that whole idea was completely outmoded by just putting VGA ports on TVs. Like,
yeah. Also that, and also, like, PC gaming still wasn't at a place where there was enough universal compatibility for that to really work.
Yeah.
Because, like, people were still using Gravis gamepads back then. You know, like, you couldn't just plug a 360 controller in and have it work with any game. There were still, like, big
360
chips.
controllers didn't even exist back then.
Well, yeah, exactly.
But yeah, it didn't have anything like that.
Yeah, there was no standardized controller format. There were still games that just straight up wouldn't work if you had one brand of video card over the other. It was tough times to be a PC owner back then.
Yeah, anytime I hear stories about that, like, oh, I was up all night configuring jumpers on my hard drive and getting my boot, managing my memory correctly to get this game to run at all. It's like, oh my god, like, how did it was
terrible, and that's why the PC gamer stereotype is the way that it is, because they had to go through a lot more shit to get their games to work than console gamers did. Which is why I was always a console gamer forever, because I never wanted to deal with any of that shit.
I mean, even now, I find it to be kind of too much.
Yeah, well, now now the gamble isn't, will this work with my hardware? Is this a garbage port?
That
right?
Too.
Like, because you're betting on whether or not you're getting like something like Devil May Cry, which was an excellent PC port of a console game.
That's good.
Or you're getting something like the Assassin's Creed Unity thing, or the Batman Arkham Asylum, which ran at like 18 frames a second for some people, and was capped at 30, and it's a PC game, So being a PC gamer still has a lot of weird problems.
Oh boy, I can't wait for Steam Link though.
Steam Link?
Yeah.
Is that where you get that from the Water Temple, right?
Yeah, Steam Link is how you beat Dark Link in the Water Temple.
Right.
But you know about Steam Link.
Yeah, I know about Steam Link.
I'm so pumped for Steam Link. I want it so bad.
Yeah, do you think it'll be rad?
Yeah, I think it's gonna be rad. I mean, I already Steam Link is basically just the same as streaming a Steam game from my desktop in the basement to my laptop, and then plugging my laptop into my TV with an HDMI cable, and that already works.
Yeah, I mean it's the same protocol that they're doing.
I just want to have a box that I can have permanently plugged into my TV.
And it's gonna be relatively cheap.
It's $50.
Right? Yeah, that's a good deal.
Yeah,
that's a good price.
That's a great deal.
For people who can't afford to or are uninterested in having a second computer, especially one just for that, and they've got a powerful enough desktop somewhere else in their house, that's a good deal.
And I'm the guy that really wants the Steam controller to be a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think for the thing that they're building it to do, it's probably going to do it pretty well.
Because I will already use controller mapping programs to take PC games that don't have controller support and sort of force it in there. And I think that works pretty well, but I would love if there was some kind of controller that already kind of works in that way automatically.
Yeah, and that's the whole reason that controller exists, is for PC games that you traditionally wouldn't want to play with a controller. So, your StarCrafts, your Heroes of the Storm, your Dota 2s.
That I have no hope for.
Or if you're playing Civilization, or Unhappy Heights, or Unholy Heights, sorry.
I don't know. Maybe if I'm honest with myself, I think it's a bad idea that will never work, but I really want it to work.
I think it'll work for the specific thing that they're trying to do. I think the problem is whether or not anybody actually wants to play those games not in front of their computer.
Yeah. I've been stuck at this bullshit all day, Jordan.
Yeah? The map screen on this game always makes me want to eat a bowl of Honey Nut Cheerios.
Why?
Because the dots between the levels look like Cheerios.
Oh. Sure. Yay!
Hey, you did it.
Whoop whoop.
What does that balloon do for you?
Extra life.
Oh, good.
Man, this is one of those games that was made back when they just really not everyone had worked out how saving in a video game should work.
Yeah, it was still very new territory, especially for console games.
Yeah, the other game I played today was Super Mario World, and that has the same problem. And in Super Mario World, you can only save by beating a castle or beating a ghost house. And the castles go away, so like anytime you make progress in Super Mario World and you're ready to be done, you have to like go back and beat a ghost house.
Really?
It's really weird. Yep.
I thought couldn't you just hit start and select save and quit or something?
I don't think so. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think so.
That's weird.
In this one, there are save points on the map, but they don't appear until you get far enough in the world, or one of the travel points shows up that will let you travel back to an older world that you already have the save point on. So the format basically is that when you go to a new world, the first 3 to 4 levels are like this gauntlet that you have to beat without getting a game over, or you have to go back to your previous save. But then once you get the save point, you can then save after every subsequent level until you move on to the next world and have to do the whole thing over again.
Interesting.
It's weird. It's really weird.
I was playing Skull Monkeys a couple weeks ago. Do you remember that game?
I don't know if I ever knew it the first time.
Skull Monkeys was the sequel to The Neverhood. And The Neverhood was a claymation point-and-click adventure game on PC, and then the Skull Monkeys was a claymation platformer game for PlayStation. And it is gorgeous looking still, has fantastic music, is a really solid controlling platformer, and also has no way of saving your game. It is a PlayStation game that still uses passwords.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Password systems are so much better now that everyone has a digital camera in their pocket.
Yeah, totally.
Oh my god. I was playing like Faxanadu in like Metroid on the NES, and I was like, how did people not just like fly off into murderous rampages for how many times they had to write down 20-digit alphanumeric passwords?
I had, whenever I was playing Mega Man 3, I had graph paper that I would record the passwords on, because they were those dot matrix things. Funny that you bring up Metroid. In the Japanese release, that wasn't a problem because it was a Famicom disk system game.
Yep.
And so you could just save.
Yeah. Metroid, by the way, that game's save system is practically broken.
Yeah.
Or I guess it's not the save system, but you know you can have like up to like 1,000 hit points in that game or something, because you start with 100, and then anytime you add an energy tank, you add another 100 points.
Right.
But anytime you die, it brings you back to 30 hit points, no matter how big your health bar is. So like you could be all the way through the game at like the hardest level, and then die once. Then you come back to life, you have 30 hit points, and you're basically like, you're like a little fly that can just be swatted.
Can you not refill it?
Well, you can like, so if you want to get up to full health, you need to just go and like grind enemies for like 5 to 10 minutes, and then you can get up to full health again.
Well, that's a bummer.
It's just like, did no one play this, or?
I never really played the first Metroid, but I played a lot of Metroid 2.
On Game Boy.
Yeah, I still think that's a very good game.
Some people would disagree with you.
Some people.
I've never played it, so I don't have an opinion. I've seen it a little bit, and it's like Samus takes up like 70% of the screen, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's ugly as hell. Like, it's not a pretty game. Especially if you're used to Super Metroid, which is a fantastic looking game.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would say that Metroid 2 is the best one, but it's my favorite for sure.
Did you ever play it on a Super Game Boy or a Game Boy Color?
I did not. Game Boy Color, yeah.
And it had like the color, even though it wasn't a Game Boy Color game.
Yeah, it was very basic, but Samus was orange for sure.
That was when did I? So now I'm always hesitant because in normal life, for normal people with normal lives, they can just bring up the same conversation topic over and over again with different people.
Yeah.
But here, I never know if the person that I'm talking to has seen a time when I've talked about this 10 times before or what. But I guess like the people that made Metroid 2 were the same people that worked on the Super Game Boy and the Game Boy Color. So they like put in code for color in the game before it was even really a thing.
Interesting.
So like if you look at the Super Game Boy box, it shows Metroid 2 and there's like full color, and it's really deceptive because it makes you think that like, oh, it just makes Game Boy games into color, but really that was like the one game that had color.
Yeah.
And the rest of it was just that like two-tone business.
Yeah, there were other games that you could put in there and it would like kind of fake it, but I can't think of anything that had as good of a look as Metroid 2 did. My favorite Game Boy games were Metroid 2, Darkwing Duck, which was excellent.
You're saying Game Boy games right now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Metroid 2, Darkwing Duck, and Pokemon Blue were probably the Game Boy games that I spent the most time with.
Blue version.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The correct version.
Exactly.
This seems like a lot of bullshit, this jumping that you're having to do here.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I hated this game for a long time, but so many people liked it that I just really wanted to like it. And every time I played it, I would just hate it. And then all of a sudden, I just like a couple nights ago, it finally clicked and I liked it for some reason, and I don't know why. Maybe I guess the levels got a little bit more complex. I don't know.
So some games just take a little time to grow on you.
Yeah, like it only I bought it 3 years ago, so it only took 3 years. All right, well, I said I should have gone 50 minutes ago, so surely I should go now.
Yeah, I gotta get a move on too, but I super appreciate you having me on here.
I appreciate you being on here.
Yeah.
Thanks everybody for watching. We'll see you another time. See you later there. It's the end. I'm super high energy today.